Welcome to Both the Speakers. I'm Kush,
I'm Alex.
and today we're going to be reviewing Immortals by Firewind. Firewind are a Greek power metal band formed in 2002, and this is their 7th studio album.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Firewind. One of my friends from work recommended this band to me, and he lent me some of their CDs. He said he had their whole discography, but I think he's a bit of a dodgy guy because he only had the first 5. I don't know. And I heard all 5 of them within 3 days of each other, and that's not the way to listen to this band, I have to say. You want to listen to Firewind, one album at a time, because they do sound pretty similar. If you're looking for original metal, this is probably not the band for you, but man, Gus G and co. Really have a good sound going for them when they really get into it.
Yeah, so I think it started off with the song Hands of Time, and the guitars and drumming sounded pretty epic. There's obviously the generic guitar solo when it comes to power metal bands. But the vocals, they blew me away. I think the vocals were very reminiscent of like late 80s, early 90s metal, and I think they blew me.
That's the weird thing with Firewind, is that they have a lot of rotating vocalists. Like this guy Henin Bassey, his first album with them, and I'd have to say he's their best vocalist so far. They had a weird Egyptian guy for one album, which was a bit weird, but yeah, he's probably their best. He blew me away as well.
Yeah, I really love this guy's vocals. I think almost every song was good. I wouldn't say they're all memorable because the what do you call it? The formula of vocal, chorus,
power metal,
guitar solo gets kind of boring towards the end. But on a second listen through, so the first time I listened to that full album through, and the second time I listened to only the second half of the album, just because I wanted to see if I'd enjoy that more. And I think listening it to again on its own is much more enjoyable than listening it to all the way through, because you do get bored of the style. But yeah. I definitely love some songs like Live and Die by the Sword, Back on the Throne. Immortals was good. Immortals was, I think, one of my favorites just because it's a really short instrumental track right in the middle of all these power metal songs. And I think that really just changed up the mood and made me want to listen to some more of their stuff. And I thought that was really, really interesting.
They have one of those on each of their albums. They have a 2-minute, just like a showcase for Gus G to just play by himself, and they're weirdly always a highlight moment. You'd never think a 2-minute instrumental would be one of their best moments or one of the better tracks, but here Gus G, he's just so good that he really makes it that.
Yeah, I think that's what really just made this band stand out, was that they had their really strong guitarist who in every single guitar solo blew me away with just the complexity of what he was playing, and the drummer who could play softly or aggressively and change between the two just by the snap of a finger, and it really did add a lot of depth to what they were playing.
Yeah,
I
have to agree with that.
I think my favorite song was Lady of 1,000 Sorrows.
That's probably my favorite, or one of them as well.
I think it was my favorite mainly because it showcases that they're not just only a power metal band and they can do other things. The vocals in the song are absolutely killer. He has the good the Pantera sound, I guess, in the other songs, but in this song when he slowed down and actually sang, I was surprised. I was like, there are very few metal vocalists who can do both screams and singing elegantly like he did. I think that was very impressive, especially for his first time with the band.
I mean, when I first went into this, I saw, okay, is this their vocalist they've had, after that mad Egyptian guy, where I was glad to see the end of him. Even though it was kind of interesting that, they had the other guy for the last 4 albums, and then going into this, I saw, a new guy, what's going on here? I don't know what happened with the old guy, but if it was just based on talent, he's really worth it, to be honest. Because I've heard 5 albums by them with 3 different vocalists before this, and the original vocalist was probably the best one on the first 2 albums, but this guy, man, when I heard Lady of a Thousand Sorrows and saw it was more of like a power ballad, or a ballad, but it's really a power ballad. It's just a ballad compared to the other metal songs on here. I was really impressed. I could not believe how softer it was in a way. It was still obviously very loud and operatic a bit, but it had nice acoustic chords, and he did different stuff with his voice, so very impressed with that one as well.
The next song I'll talk about is Ode to Leonidas.
Yes, this is a one we need to talk about. Yeah,
I really enjoyed that song because I put it came up next on the album, and I'm listening to it, and it's like this weird like person who's narrating over a very very solemn metal instrumentation in the background, and it sounds kind of Lord of the Rings-esque, like a skit scene for the first. I think it was maybe a minute and a half of the song. It was just the guy setting up a story, and then it suddenly picks up, and it's such a roller coaster of a song. And I think the song, because they had the chorus was very chanty and singable. I think it would be a fun concert song, as would a lot of these songs. A lot of these songs would be very enjoyable to get in a mosh pit and jump around and sing to and dance to. But that song specifically, minus the first minute and 30, would be a very, very fun concert song.
Yeah, I agree. When I heard that spoken word bit at the start, I knew this was going to be like a very significant and good song. And the 2 6-minute songs on here, Ode to Leonidas and Live and Die by the Sword, the 2 longest, they're almost like war metal songs. Weird genre, because I don't get the real difference between that and power metal, other than it has to specifically talk about wars, obviously, usually like from 1800s, and with fantasy elements as well. So yeah, I agree, it'd be good to see this band live.
Yeah, the only song which I didn't really care for too much, Wars of Ages. I felt like I felt like that song was just kind of another generic song. I did not like it. I thought it was a good song, but I feel like in context of all the other songs and all the other things they've done throughout the album, it was just kind of a miss of a song.
One thing I've noticed, and yeah, I agree with that, Firewind have an odd problem. They have like really catchy choruses, but for some reason a lot of them aren't memorable. Like, they're like catchier than most things I've ever heard. Not even just in a metal context, but in any context. Do you know what I mean? They're just really catchy, and for some reason they're not memorable. It's a generic metal album in some ways. Well, this is from talking about hearing their whole thing.
Because like this is exactly what I would think of when I hear metal music. This is what I would picture. I think that's the first problem, was that because you'd picture it, and there's so many bands that try to do this. Firewind does it much better than most other bands I've heard, but
yeah,
I think this is more of just a filler tracks, and the chorus, although they are catchy, they don't have much substance to them. Like the lyrics are decent, and for metal, for the most part, lyrics are never like the strong suit of metal music. But I think if the lyrics are more engaging, it would put them over the top and make it more memorable. But I think because most metal music is pretty generic, like the word immortal is in every metal album ever created. I guarantee you that.
Basically, yeah.
Think about the album, or the names of the songs: "Rise from the Ashes," "Live and Die by the Sword." Those are pretty generic metal album songs.
It's very cookie cutter metal in a lot of ways.
And I think that's the problem with it, is that they embrace those stereotypes of metal music and don't try to differentiate them. There's
Yeah.
one band I can't remember, but they're performing at my university, and you know how like the metal the I guess logos of the bands are always just like a lot of like random sketches of lines and kind of drawn out like it's very like what do you call it?
I don't know. I know what you mean. Some bands, especially death metal, black metal, like grind.
Yeah,
I know that's not similar, but sometimes they're so liney and weird and intricate and complex that you can't even read them.
exactly. So there's one band who's headlining a metal festival near my university, but they have this like bubblegum candy logo, and I forgot the name of the band, but it's like bubble letters and they're pink and blue and yellow letters, and it looks like a kid's band, but they're actually one of the most aggressive metal bands I've heard, and I think it's wonderful that they've done that, because really if you like a lot of those metal logos you can't even read, and I think that then you're not memorable. But now I wish I remember the name, but
Well, are they like a somewhat known band
I think they're decently popular.
on Firewind level? Like Firewind aren't actually that known, really. Like they're known if you want to look for power metal that's going on today, but they're not like a band you really probably have heard of if you weren't looking for them.
Oh yeah, I'd say pretty much like that.
Right.
If I find it, I will definitely forward it to you. But their logo is just one of my favorite things because they're so memorable and it sticks out. Like, oh, look at this band, they must suck, but they're actually a pretty decent metal band, I would say.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so I think the biggest flaw of this album is that it's not memorable.
It's like superficially catchy.
I enjoyed it while listening to it, and if I wasn't listening to it, I wouldn't really remember anything about it.
You know what the funny thing is? The only like kind of chorus I can remember right now, like off the top of my head, is Wars of Ages. So I don't know what to think, but I did write in my notes that that was a forgettable song, so I don't know what made me trigger it in my mind.
But yeah, I think the Spotify version had the bonus song "Vision of Tomorrow," which
It did, yeah.
I'm glad they kept it as a bonus because that was just another more generic song like War of Ages, and they kept it as bonus. I think that's probably better because I think another one of those generic songs that just kind of made it a little bit too much. But I can appreciate this. This album is very solid, and I thoroughly enjoy listening to it through.
Yeah.
You want to give it a rating?
I'm gonna give it a 7. From my expectations of Firewind, hearing their first 5 albums, I wasn't even gonna suggest that we cover this because I thought I knew what this band were capable of, but no, they surprised me. They had a much better vocalist, and had a lot of variety for Firewind. Like, if you think this was similar sounding, it's the most variety I've ever heard them do. So, but even so, what do you want from power metal today? This is as good as it gets.
Yeah, I would say that. I'm gonna give this an 8. I think every song had something going for it. The vocals were very, very, very engaging and entertaining. The guitars and drumming were done masterfully. I think the guitarist should get a shout out for that.
Yeah. Well, Gus G's the main guy. He's the only member that's been around the whole time, so it's basically his animal. And he's so good that he's actually the guitarist for Ozzy Osbourne at the moment.
Yeah, he's. Oh my god, the guitarist in every single song was just a standout moment of every song. And
I just want to say that bands like Iron Maiden are still making better music than this and more probably interesting music, but who cares? I mean, this is just so well produced and has excellent playing that even if it is derivative and generic in some ways, it's still excellent on its own merits. So I can't ask for more.
Yeah, I think this is a very, very good album. Just by today's standards of metal music, this was a standout and it was done very masterfully.
Absolutely.
Thanks for tuning in to Busted Speakers. If you like our content, make sure you like and subscribe the video. Let us know what you feel about this album in the comments below, and follow us on social media for all the newest updates about our channel.
Yes, do that.